Boy saves elderly woman from fire. One day later, she brings lawyers to his house. 16-year-old Jaylen Bryant was just a regular kid in the middle of a bustling city. His days were a steady routine of school, helping his mom with errands, and dreaming big for the future. Life wasn't easy. His family struggled to make ends meet, but Jaylen held his head high, taking pride in his sense of responsibility. Around the neighborhood, he was known for his kindness, always helping elderly neighbors with groceries, yard work, or whatever else they needed. The neighborhood itself was close-knit but weathered. Cracked sidewalks, peeling paint, and empty lots hinted at the challenges people faced daily. Yet, despite these hardships, the community was alive with resilience and hope. People shared what they had, pitched in during tough times, and leaned on each other. In this little corner of the city, Jaylen stood out as a symbol of strength and kindness. One Friday evening, as he headed home from his part-time job at a nearby grocery store, something felt off. The air had a strange, smoky smell that made his heart skip a beat. Looking up, Jaylen saw thick black smoke rising into the sky, and his stomach knotted with fear. It was coming from old Miss Eleanor's house just a few blocks away. Miss Eleanor, in her late 70s, had lived in the neighborhood her entire life. She was known for sitting on her front porch, telling stories of the old days to anyone who would listen. Jaylen had helped her a few times with groceries and yard work, and he couldn't bear the thought of something happening to her. Without a second thought, he sprinted toward her house, his heart pounding in his chest. As he got closer, he could see the fire spreading across the first floor, flames licking the wooden frame of the house. Neighbors stood outside, staring in shock, unsure of what to do. Jaylen's breath quickened as he scanned the scene, thinking quickly. His instincts told him Miss Eleanor might still be inside. He called out to the crowd, "Has anyone seen Miss Eleanor?" A few people shook their heads, their eyes wide with fear. Without hesitation, Jaylen pushed through the small group and charged toward the burning house. "Jaylen, no!" Someone yelled from behind, but his mind was already made up. He bolted toward the front door, his heart pounding louder than the crackling flames. The heat was nearly unbearable, but he pushed through, determined to reach Miss Eleanor. The door was unlocked, and he kicked it open, stepping into the smoke-filled house. "Miss Eleanor!" he shouted, his voice hoarse from the thick smoke. For a few agonizing moments, there was no response, just the roar of the fire surrounding him. Panic clawed at Jaylen's chest, but then he heard it, a faint cry from upstairs. Help! It was her. Without thinking, Jaylen dashed up the staircase, each step creaking under the weight of the flames. His eyes stung, and every breath felt like swallowing fire. But he pushed forward, following her voice. Finally, he reached the upstairs hallway, where Miss Eleanor was huddled in a corner, her frail body trembling, her face covered in soot. She looked disoriented, barely able to speak. "Miss Eleanor, it's me, Jaylen," he called out as he reached her. "We have to get out of here. Can you stand?" Miss Eleanor looked up, fear in her eyes, but when she recognized his voice, a wave of relief washed over her face. She nodded weakly, and Jaylen helped her to her feet, her legs wobbling beneath her. He draped her arm around his shoulder and guided her toward the stairs, both of them moving as quickly as they could despite the oppressive heat. The fire was spreading faster now, and by the time they reached the bottom of the staircase, the front door was surrounded by flames. Jaylen's heart sank, but he spotted a side window slightly ajar. It was their only hope. "Stay low, Miss Eleanor. We're going out through the window," Jaylen said, helping her crawl toward it. With the little strength she had left, Miss Eleanor followed Jaylen's lead. He pushed the window open as far as it would go and helped her through. Just as he was about to crawl through after her, part of the ceiling collapsed, sending sparks flying. The force of the collapse knocked Jaylen back, and for a terrifying moment, he thought he wouldn't make it out. But with a final burst of energy, he pulled himself through the window and rolled onto the grass. Outside, gasping for air, Jaylen lay there, catching his breath. He could hear the sound of approaching sirens as firefighters and paramedics rushed onto the scene. But all Jaylen could focus on was Miss Eleanor lying next to him, safe and alive. He'd done it. He saved her.
Before we begin, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more heartwarming stories.
The next day, Jaylen was resting at home, nursing a few minor burns and sore muscles from the previous night. He hadn't expected what was coming next. A knock at the door broke the quiet of the morning. His mother, curious, answered it. Standing on the porch was Miss Eleanor, looking much better than she had the night before. Beside her were two men in suits carrying briefcases. Jaylen's mother raised an eyebrow but invited them in. "Good morning, Mrs. Bryant," Miss Eleanor said with a warm smile. "I wanted to stop by to thank you and Jaylen for what he did last night." "Miss Eleanor, we're just glad you're safe," Jaylen's mother replied, smiling back. Jaylen did what anyone would do. Miss Eleanor shook her head. No, not everyone would have risked their life like that. She turned toward Jaylen, who was sitting on the couch, listening intently. "Jaylen, you saved my life, and I'll never be able to repay you for that, but I want to try." One of the men in suits stepped forward, opening his briefcase. "My name is Mr. Lawson," he said. "I'm Miss Eleanor's lawyer, and she has something she'd like to offer you." Jaylen's heart raced. What was happening? Miss Eleanor continued, "Jaylen, I've lived in this neighborhood for a long time. I've seen the challenges people face, and I know how hard it is to get ahead. I've always believed in giving back, and after what you did for me, I want to do something for you." Mr. Lawson handed Jaylen an official-looking document. "Miss Eleanor has set up a trust fund for you," he explained. "It will cover your college education and anything you need to pursue your dreams." Jaylen stared at the papers in disbelief. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "I wasn't expecting anything. I just wanted to help." "You did more than help," Miss Eleanor said, her voice full of warmth. "You gave me a second chance at life. Now, I want to give you the same. You deserve the chance to chase your dreams without worrying about money or the struggles that come with it." Tears welled up in Jaylen's eyes as he looked at his mother, who was wiping away her own tears. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. "This means everything to me." Miss Eleanor smiled, her eyes twinkling with kindness. "You've got a bright future ahead of you, Jaylen. Go make the most of it." The trust fund opened doors Jaylen had never even dreamed of. He pursued his education, working hard every step of the way, but he never forgot the lesson Miss Eleanor had taught him, that kindness and bravery can change lives, not just in a moment, but for a lifetime. This story of Jaylen's bravery and Miss Eleanor's gratitude highlights the power of kindness, courage, and giving back. Jaylen's selfless act of saving Miss Eleanor reminds us that true heroism comes from doing what's right, not for recognition. In turn, Miss Eleanor's generosity shows the impact of paying it forward. By supporting Jaylen's future, she transforms his life and empowers his dreams. Together, they demonstrate how small acts of kindness can create lasting change, inspiring us to consider how we too might make a difference in someone's life.